Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Lap Down Podcast. As always, I am your host, Greg Farmer, and tonight we have Mr. Will returning for his second episode with us. We have Mr. JP, we have Mr. Ben, Mr. Ryan, Mr. Rumble Man himself, Denny Rumble, and we have a special guest with us tonight, Mr. Brett. Welcome to the show, Brett. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from?
Well, I'm from Jamestown, North Carolina. I've been getting into racing since 2008.
And who is your favorite driver, if I may ask?
The driver of the 43 Toyota Camry, Eric Jones.
Nice. If I'm not mistaken, you are friends with JP, Ben, and Ryan. Is that correct?
I'm friends with everybody in here.
Friends, mortal enemies, depends on the day. As long as it's not Auto Club Speedway.
Or,
All right.
or Talladega.
JP, Bob.
All right, well, welcome in, Brett. It's going to be a good show tonight. As always, we want to thank Will for writing our intro song. Him and his band, The Blood World. Be sure to check, the Alkali Project. Be sure to check out their album, The Blood World, on Spotify and iTunes or wherever you get your music. Well, gentlemen, it was a long weekend. A long weekend in Daytona, but we finally made it. As noted in last week's episode with my dark horse pick, I did predict that the rain would win on Saturday and Sunday, and I was correct. The truck race did run Friday night, and they moved the ARCA race to Friday night from Saturday. And then we get to Saturday, and they postponed the Xfinity race fairly early to Monday. NASCAR was very good at keeping the fans updated on that stuff and not having them wait around. And they also did the same thing with the Daytona 500. On Sunday, they told us pretty early that it was going to get postponed to Monday as well. So, recapping the Daytona 500, Hendrick Motorsports wins their 9th Daytona 500, which ties Petty Motorsports for most of all time in Daytona 500 wins. And the driver who did it was Mr. WilliamByron in the 24 car. He was 0 for 5 leading into this Daytona 500. And he entered his 6th one this year, and he led just one lap. And that was the last lap. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I've seen it all over social media that people were calling it a controversial finish because they were saying NASCAR was being inconsistent with the caution calling on the last lap. Like, was it the timestamp? Was it the scoring loop? Was it when the caution lights came on? Because if you look at a few different angles when the caution lights came on, Alex Bowman was actually ahead of WilliamByron, but the timestamps and the scoring loops say that Byron was ahead by half a car length. Starting with Mr. Brett, did you watch any of the Daytona 500, and how do you feel about the finish?
I watched the entire thing. I was actually quite enjoyed by it. There was a couple things I didn't like, but going back to that finish, I was listening to a different podcast on another channel, and they actually were talking about the timestamp and everything like that. If you look at some certain photos about it, when the green lights go off, I think is when they actually timed it, which had WilliamByron in front because of timing with lights and such like that.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. NASCAR actually did come through later on that night and give us actual proof of when they timestamped the finish of the race, and it did clearly show that Byron was ahead. Will, did you have any thoughts on Daytona 500?
I watched the entire thing at work. I sat here and did nothing at work Monday for 4 straight hours just watching the race. I think NASCAR did fine letting people know how they call the finish. It's TV that didn't do a very good job letting people know how the finish was decided. They just kind of cut away and left people in the dark about it. From what I saw, people screenshotting points and videos on Reddit specifically. And that's where the controversy kind of came from. It kind of bled over to Twitter or whatever it's called nowadays. I think the explanation NASCAR gave was fine. I don't know what the rule book says about when the light. The controversy is it when the light goes off or is it when the light turns yellow? When the winner is decided. I don't think anybody really knows. I was listening to Door Bumper Clear, and they didn't seem to even know what the rule was. But if it's when the light goes off, not me, Willie B, but the other Willie B is the winner. And if it's when the yellow light comes on, Alex B is the winner. Either way, somebody with a B last name is going to win.
Unless they should have thrown the caution early, which is the other argument I've seen on Facebook and stuff, was that they were being inconsistent with waiting that long to throw the caution. Which, looking back at the replays and stuff, I can see why they waited. They wanted to see if the cars were going to spin down the track, but ultimately, the cars were spinning, and we've seen them throw yellows for far less.
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time too, you have to look at where they were on the track in regards to the caution being thrown. They were probably 200 or 300 yards from the finish line, doing 190 miles an hour, and then you have Ross Chastain trying to shoot the gap, and at the same time, the two cars getting turned, and by the time that the two car actually really started to slide back up into traffic, they were already well past the start-finish line.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, remember how small a caution they ended up throwing it in, what was it, the 2021 or 2022 All-Star race with Blaney? I mean, they were pretty quick on the button to make sure that race didn't end at that point and that they got another restart in.
Yep. JP, what are your thoughts on it?
Him's muted.
You are muted, sir. There you go.
Not anymore.
Yeah. So here's my take on it. It's a ball and strike call. You know. I mean, 10 seconds earlier, maybe we had a green light record. But when the caution comes out, Ryan, why don't you look up clarification on that rule for us?
What clarification? Because there's a lot of intricacy to it that you might be asking me about with the way that you worded that.
NASCAR really hasn't posted anything as far as clarification on timing of the caution or why they threw the caution and the explanation. They just posted a picture of when the
the simplest explanation is the reason why they threw the caution was because the cars spun back up into traffic, and by that point they were already past the start-finish line. Now, maybe in a perfect world they could have let them race for another half lap, and they wouldn't have put anybody in any further danger, quote unquote, because they would have been on the backside of the track when they would have thrown that yellow. But that would be a new precedent, not anything they've ever done before. So I don't think it's an inconsistency to not wait to throw the caution like that.
Yeah. But, I mean, I'm happy with WilliamByron winning. I mean, I went on Instagram today and messaged him directly and congratulated him. You know, probably won't ever hear back, but...
And what are your thoughts on it? Did you catch any of it?
I listened to it on Sirius XM MRN radio. I did listen to the end of that, and the way they explained it is that Byron passed the yellow or the white checkered as the wreck happened. So that's how they declared it, but they didn't really give an explanation to anything.
Yeah, there was a lot of gray area that they left us with.
Yep.
Yeah, it didn't really say much after that. But it was a great race.
Oh yeah, it absolutely was.
Yeah,
what about you, Denny?
right.
Mr. Rumble, you got any thoughts?
I do have some thoughts. And it's super simple. I was sitting there watching it. I had no issue. I didn't even realize there was a controversy. I was watching it, and I thought it all played out perfectly fine. They threw it when they should have, and I didn't even realize there was a controversy. To be perfectly honest with you, I haven't seen nothing of it. No, I watched that race, and I thought, yep, that's how it played out, and there it is. And I don't even know why it's such a big discussion, but that's just Rumble's thoughts. Normally I'd be angry about shit, but I'd be rumbling about something, but I'm not. I watched it and I thought it was exactly what it was.
I agree. I didn't know about it.
Yeah, one thing I will say about why you might not have heard as much about this controversy as you otherwise might have, is that you also had the detail of the fact that obviously both drivers involved in the controversy were teammates, and the 48 team isn't going to go out of their way to protest the 24 winning the race.
Yeah, that's a very valid point. Yeah, that's a very valid point. But I'm just saying, from what I saw, I was sitting right there 2 feet in front of the TV watching the end of that, and I didn't see anything there that's even more disgusting, in my opinion. It was it. It was the end of it was the end of the race.
Well, I mean, the controversy came basically from like social media. What was NASCAR's thinking on the timing of the caution and the yellow lights and stuff, like basically like who was ahead of who when they thought that the timestamp or the scoring loop, because like one angle shows Alex Bowman ahead of WilliamByron and another angle shows Byron ahead of Bowman and stuff like that. So that's where the controversy falls. People are trying to in their own minds declare the rightful winner of the Daytona 500, and it's about 50-50 between Byron and Bowman. And to JP's point, I'm happy the finish itself, because I was a little upset at first until I actually saw the proof that NASCAR posted, and then I was like, okay, that's fine. They gave us proof that that they made the right call. WilliamByron is my second favorite driver, and Alex Bowman is my favorite driver, and they finished 1-2 in the Daytona 500. I couldn't have picked a better day for it.
Well, there you go. Nothing to be sad about for you. I really didn't care. I was just watching the race, and I thought there was nothing to even discuss there. The race was over, and that's how it ended.
All right. Well, I have a couple questions regarding the 500, and we'll go one by one on each question, starting with Brett. I obviously listen to other podcasts, the Dale Jr. Download, Door Bumper Clear, Actions Detrimental, and all that stuff, and everybody was talking about the same thing in each podcast, is the fuel saving during the stages. With this package that they have and the new cars and stuff, they can't really necessarily quote unquote save fuel like they used to in the old cars. Do you think, in your opinion, what do you think they might be able to change to actually get these guys to race harder and not be sitting there leading the Daytona 500 running 30% throttle?
Well, with the 500, you got to worry about multiple different factors. You got air, you got drag, and you got all the different horsepower situation they have.
Yep.
Little changing the way the car but drags in the air. That will help, like lowering the spoiler or something like that. Giving more horsepower might help a little bit, but doing stuff like that is just going to create a band-aid for this racing for super speedways. They're using the same engines in all different disciplines of the racing. So changing the horsepower for one track may work for super speedway, but might ruin short track racing or something like that.
Yeah, and trying to make one package that works at all tracks. I mean, I think we saw it with the
Isn't
short
gonna work.
tracks. It's pretty much ruined the short track racing.
Yeah, there's nothing that they can do to fix one thing that won't ruin something else.
I have one disagreement there because I think there is one thing they could do to potentially fix the problem for super speedways that I don't think would really harm the racing at too many other tracks. And it's something they experimented with last year, which is removing the yellow flag associated with the stage end, still awarding the points, but having no caution, because a lot of the teams, they were fuel saving because they knew that a caution was coming and they would be able to pit without having to stop or without having to worry about, oh, are we going to lose track position or whatnot, or having to pit at this exact lap because, well, everybody's going to be pitting at this exact lap because we're going to be under yellow.
That's a very valid, very valid point. Sorry, not trying to walk on you, but that's a very valid point.
No, you're good.
Because, besides that change, I don't really see anything with the car that they could change that would make a big enough deal that would be worth potentially jeopardizing, say, the 1.5 mile racing.
But to that point that you just made, so they were saving fuel for 40, 50 laps and then running hard the last 20 laps in each stage.
Yep.
If you take away that caution, what's going to keep them from saving fuel basically the entire race and only racing 20 laps?
So here's what I thought. Like, I miss old school racing where there were no stages. You can still have stages and have a count, but let's have old fashioned racing back. Forget the stopping of the yellow flag. My dad was like, he stopped watching NASCAR and he's like, what is these stages? Like, why are they stopping? I was like, oh, it's just new stuff they added in there to try to make it more competitive. And honestly, it slows the race down. Why not just bring it back? Who cares how many times they're going to pit? Just bring it back. Let them race.
Well,
I was under the impression that they brought stage racing in to try and force them to run all the time instead of hanging back, right? You stage points are going to be key to you winning a championship, right?
And that's why I like the idea of keeping the points keeping points available throughout the races, but not throwing the guaranteed yellow, because you keep the aspect of you still got to run hard to try and get the points, but you can't just kind of wait and know, okay, we've only got 20 laps till we know there's a caution, and then you can run like crazy because you know in 15 laps you're going to get a caution no matter what happens.
Yeah.
Because if the points are being awarded but there's no caution, yeah, theoretically you could just run it easy until about the point where you're going to be getting the points, but you don't have any guarantee of a yellow right after that to potentially help with your fuel. Same with the teams taking, for example, 2 tires on their way to the stage end. You might not want to do that if you're going to have to go potentially another full fuel run on the left side tires.
Or you had Logano, who had 22 lap pit stop behind of everybody else. Well, he was ahead of everybody else, like 20 lap pit stop ahead.
Yep.
So, like, he changed our pit strategy.
You know, back to what Brett was saying, my dad absolutely hates stage racing. Vincent said, get rid of it. But I kind of agree with Ryan. Keep the stage racing, but get rid of the cautions like they did for road courses.
Well, and that decision was reversed for this year. We're going to see the cautions back at the road courses this year. Because people determined that Indianapolis and Watkins Glen were boring without the cautions. So because of the fans complaining about that, they're going back on that decision. And in fact, they went back on it mid-season because Charlotte had stage cautions when I was there in the fall.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Ryan, you pretty much hit the nail on the head. You took the words right out of my mouth. I don't mind the stages, award them the stage points, but take away the damn stage cautions, you know. But I also get NASCAR's mindset behind when they first introduced stage racing. One of the things that they hit on with the stage racing is it's mainly for the fans because it gives them a chance if they're either attending the race in person or even at home during the stage breaks. You can get up, go use the bathroom, or go get food or drinks or whatnot, and you're not missing anything.
And it gives it gives Fox a chance to run a ton of ads supposedly without interrupting the racing, although they still throw way too many ads in there.
Yeah, and you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Go to a hockey game. There's periods, football quarters. You can head out and go get yourself a beverage, and you're not missing. That's a logical point as well.
The downfall is they don't have all the concessions open. At Bristol, when we went to Bristol, they didn't have all the concessions open. Only certain areas had it open.
Yeah.
Oh, and
if you got to go to the bathroom at Talladega, the line's lined up out of the bathroom because everybody's drunk and has to go pee.
Yep.
Well, Will, I was going to go to you next. What are your thoughts on what we're talking about?
I don't care. It doesn't bother me. It's just racing, and the J.R. Houston, Bubba Wallace's engineer, has an entire thread where he asks people, "Okay, give me your best idea for how to fix this, and I'll tell you how you're wrong." Because a lot of the changes are coming from folks that aren't thinking it through fully. Yeah. And if you say one thing that's going to benefit some subset of drivers during the race, why would you think that not every driver in the race is not going to be doing this thing? I think a lot of the changes are from the same fans who think NASCAR is too manufactured and there's so many rules that it feels like WWE on wheels, and yet they want to add more to the rule book. Like, for example, one of the suggestions I saw on Twitter/X/Elon Musk thing, whatever you want to call it, was penalize drivers who drive below 70% throttle at any point in the race while they're racing, not trying to avoid a crash or whatever. If they at any point come off 70% of the throttle for a certain period or a certain length of time, send them down pit road for a pass through. And that is the most arbitrary idea I've heard.
It's the same reason why NASCAR doesn't want to throw penalties.
That's ridiculous. Why don't they don't even have a throttle? Just mash the gas pedal wide open and never lift and just see what happens. Most ridiculous shit I've ever heard.
If they did that, you would have 3/4 of the field coming down pit road just about every freaking lap.
Yeah, because fans are only trying to think of scenarios where they think this is going to work. We're not thinking it completely through.
Yeah.
Because we're fans. We're not everybody in this room plays iRacing and kind of has an idea of how racing actually goes. And even the folks that play iRacing are sitting at home behind a computer screen. So we don't know everything on how it's going to work.
I feel like I'm getting picked on because I don't play iRacing.
I don't know.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. I don't know how many people play.
I'm just bugging.
I wish my MacBook would. So here's a question. So, like F1 has, IndyCar has, they have the bypass. So, if NASCAR added the bypass, would that affect the fuel mileage too, probably, or would that make it a little bit more?
For those of us that don't know what it is.
The push to pass?
Yeah, the push to pass.
Oh, push to pass. Okay, there we go.
When you're thinking of ERS, where braking charges a battery, and you have a certain you press and hold a button, ERS or DRS, but you're thinking more of ERS. What's going to stop somebody from getting in front of the field and just going slow so that they charge their battery?
Oh, please don't bring this to my NASCAR. Please don't bring this to my NASCAR. Jesus Christ. This is like going down the fucking rabbit hole here.
And push to pass and DRS, I feel like both of those systems work way better on road course racing than they do on ovals.
Yeah.
I mean, the concept of slowing down to have to charge a battery or whatever to be able to go faster.
Yeah. The bad news I have is the next gen car was built specifically for hybridization in the future, so ERS is definitely coming to NASCAR. But I don't think it's going to happen on play tracks. I don't think they're going to have it there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's go to the next question real quick before we move into our next topic. Starting with Brett, is winning the Daytona 500 becoming all about luck and being in the right place at the right time? Because in the last, I want to say, 10 years, we've only seen a handful of the Daytona 500s actually end under an actual green flag, checker flag circumstance.
Well, if you think about it, WilliamByron only led one lap. Ricky Stenhouse only led one lap last year. It's basically, if you're near the front and you're just before the wreck and you're either second or third, more than likely you're going to win. So it's luck, but it's also talent being able to be up there in time.
Okay. Will?
No, I think it's always been that way. I mean, Dale Earnhardt's 500 was the same way. So, and that was almost 30 years ago. Man,
yeah,
I'm old.
well, I mean, but if you look at Earnhardt, though, he was always up at the front. It's just something happened to him every single time.
Yeah, I mean that's luck. Bad luck, but that's luck. Also, WilliamByron led 4 laps.
Oh, he did. He led 4 laps. I thought he only.
Yeah, he led the last 4.
Yeah, he only led 1 green flag lap. Because he took the lead during the caution flag when everybody wrecked at the very end, during like the 6 lap period that they did under the yellow. And then
took the lead at 197 and led through all the way through to the end. Okay. He led once, but for 4 laps.
All right, JP.
So, here's my take on it. You can score big from any position, but I mean, anybody could win at Daytona Talladega. So, I mean, yes, we've seen last lap passes, but that's a part of Daytona Talladega, in my opinion.
All right. What about Ben?
All right. So Daytona's always been that place where it's always had that big wreck and it's always near the end. So you've always had those. The issue is it's always had those drivers who are antsy or who want to block people off, aka Logano. Kyle Busch did it.
Chastain.
Earnhardt's did it. Earnhardt done it. Who else? Rusty Wallace. There's a lot of people who've done it. I mean, they're known for it. I mean, you're going to have somebody that's going to block somebody off, and Brad Keselowski's going to whip you around and end your spot and your chance. It's just the way the monster rolls. But lately it has been that way. And it's sad when I listen to ESPN radio, and 2 non-NASCAR fans even call it out and say, in the last 5 laps, it could be anybody's race. So,
yeah,
that's my take on it.
What about you, Ryan?
All right, I've got 2 words that should hopefully disprove it's entirely luck. Denny Hamlin. He's won 3 of them in the last, 5-6 years, it feels like? And it's probably been...
8.
Yeah, I was going to say, it probably goes a bit further back because of the... because 2016 was a while ago now, but still, he's won a lot of them for a race that is seemingly random. He's also been puts himself near the front of the field for almost every 500, so when things occasionally broke his way, he was able to take wins, like in 2020. He was, 3rd or 4th on the final lap and got lucky with the wreck, but it's because he put himself in the front 7 races in a row eventually, one or two of them were going to fall his way. I mean, same thing with why I think there were less people surprised about the Michael McDowell win. He had been putting himself in the 2019 race. He was, fourth on the restart, I think? So he was right in the position to potentially take that one if things fell his way. And eventually in 2021, they did fall his way.
Yeah. Speaking of the 2020 Daytona 500, I don't know if you guys have ever seen Denny's onboard of that finish, but when Ryan Newman came across his nose, he never lifted.
Yep.
He goes right under him too.
You never heard him grab the throttle, nothing. Rumble, what about you?
All right. Well, I firmly believe Daytona and Talladega are complete crapshoots. The one difference that a couple of you brought up is if you're up front, you may be able to dictate not getting collected. But anybody else, and even at that, on restarts and stuff, you may find yourself in trouble, even being there. It's just such a crapshoot, and I think back to many racers that say that we shouldn't be doing this. We should give everybody the horsepower they want and do what they want to, kind of run what they brung. But NASCAR knows what the fans like to see, and the fans, not us. I like to see racing. But the majority of fans that come and watch Talladega and Daytona, they're waiting for the big one. They love the big one, and that puts fucking asses in the seats, and people love to see that. And I said it this last race. It's got to be terrifying to actually be a driver in that pack and just be like, look at the fucking cars dancing around. Like we just know it's coming. It's coming. It's a matter of time. And, you're just sitting there hoping you're going to clear it and make it through the other side. Days of thunder shit. Anyways, those two tracks are complete crapshoots, and they're giving the fans what they want, which is intense ass racing. But again, from a driver's side, I don't think I'm not sure I'd want to be sitting there and waiting for the big one to happen. It's a crapshoot, both of them.
One real quick point, though, is I'd like to ask what can really be done at this point, though, for NASCAR if they wanted to go ahead and stop the pack-style racing. Because at this point, I don't really see anything NASCAR can do from their position to stop pack racing. I mean, it's been going on through every rule set going back to, the 80s?
Take the plates off.
Yeah, say Rumble hit it right there. The only thing
take the plates off.
Take the restrictor plates off.
Yep.
And let them pretty much run what they brought, like it
let
used
them
to be
run
back in the old days.
Yes.
But at the same time, you have a greater risk of killing someone doing that
no,
too.
Yeah,
because they're
going to be higher.
2 or 3. You'd have 2-3 people still somewhat close to each other going. What, 230, 240 potentially?
Yes. Yep.
The horsepower they can build.
The speeds will be higher. That's it. You can't make everybody happy all the time. You know that saying, right? Like it is what it is. But I firmly believe that NASCAR knows that they get their biggest draw on TV and in the seats for the plate racing, the big tracks. People love to see that. Everybody's bumper to bumper. They're all skimming around the track, and we're all just waiting for that wreck to happen. And it always does. I mean, when was the last time we had a plate race that didn't end like that? Those wrecks were huge this year. Again,
realistically, though,
they were huge.
This 500 was actually relatively clean. I mean, we had the caution on lap 5. Then we had the big one with like 10 laps to go, and then we had
that's
one
what I'm
across the
talking
start
about.
Finish line that ended the race. I think those were the only 3 cautions for contact.
Yeah, but that's what I'm talking about. But that's what everybody's sitting there waiting for is that big one, and we're all sitting there watching it, and there's 20 cars piling in, and there's nothing they can do about it. There's nowhere to go. You're going so fast. I mean, your car will only physically go in so many directions, right? And it's just chaos. But it's engineered chaos. That's what I'm saying. NASCAR loves it. It puts asses in the seats and people watching at home, watching commercials. And that's what it is. They could fix it in certain ways. I think they could make it a little less chaotic for the drivers. Like I said, fun to watch, but it's got to be. Let's get a driver on here that was in that race and talk to him about how fucking tense that is to just sit there waiting. Right, you're looking at the cars in front of you bouncing around, and it's just absolute chaos.
Well, I just thought of another example of a driver who kind of disproves the Daytona is all luck. I mean, think about AustinHill in the Xfinity race for a moment. What, that's 3 years in a row he's won the Xfinity Series opener at Daytona?
Yep.
Yeah.
What a nerd.
And Ryan, you were, you were correct. It was technically the cleanest 500, almost on record. Looking back through one of my texts here, Daytona 500 had 5 cautions, 3 for incidents, 2 for stages, and that is the fewest amount of cautions in a 500 since 2004. So 20 years.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that's an anomaly.
Yeah, sure. There was still the one big one that took out a lot of cars, and there was the one right at the beginning that ended the day of 3 or 4 drivers. Yeah. But
that's an anomaly. That's what that is. It's just
cleanest,
some weird
one on record. I'm looking here. There's 11 cars that didn't finish the race because of an accident. Or I say 11 cars that didn't finish the race. It would be 10 of them. One of them below 29th is Michael McDowell, who did finish the race. He just had issues.
Yeah. Trust me, I'm well aware of issues.
Yes. I know you are.
All right, well, let's go ahead and move into our next topic. As we all know, this is the 40th anniversary of Hendrick Motorsports. So this week we're going to be focusing on Hendrick Motorsports as a whole, and specifically one driver. Calling this segment HendrickHeroes. So Hendrick Motorsports has gone over a massive overhaul over the last 7 or 8 years with the retirement of Jeff Gordon and Earnhardt Jr. and Casey Kane and Mark Martin, Jimmy Johnson. So it's literally, they've got like brand new faces. You have Chase Elliott, who is the most popular driver. You have Kyle Larson, who is the most talented driver and technically called the comeback kid. You have Alex Bowman, nicknamed the Showman. He wins races mainly by being pretty much in the right place at the right time come the end of the race. And then you have WilliamByron, the other guy.
He's the runt of the litter.
Yeah, pretty much. But he technically didn't grow up around racing. He started his racing career on iRacing and got a shot in the TruckSeries and in the XfinitySeries, and then got moved up to Cup. He mentioned in a recent interview that he uses the quote-unquote other guy mentality as motivation to help him run better and win races. But starting with Brett, looking at last season, 2023, he had 6 wins and was in the Final 4. And then he starts off 2024 with a Daytona 500 win. Could he have become like the guy, like the Hendrick guy now?
Well, with Chase Elliott being in the team, he's not going to be the guy in Hendrick. Because in fans' eyes, Elliott's always going to be that. With the whole passing of the torch in 2020 of Jimmy to Elliott.
Yep.
But he has proven himself year after year. He may not get as many wins as when he was racing. Like, he got 6 wins last year.
Led the team in
I don't think
stat.
I don't think anybody else came close to that in statistics.
That was most out of all drivers last year.
So he's not going to be the guy at Hendrick, but he's not going to be just the other guy. He's got the second most talent out of anybody at Hendrick, in my opinion. And it goes Larson, Byron, then Elliott. Bowman's the out and out for me.
Well, if you look at his stats, his win on Monday was his 11th career win, which surpassed him with Ryan Blaney, who has 10 wins, who is the reigning defending Cup Series champion. We'll get back to the Hendrick guy in a minute, but is WilliamByron considered championship material at this point in his career?
He's good, and he made the Final 4.
He wasn't part of the Final Four, was he?
Whoa, but
he didn't make Final Four last year.
Byron did make Final Four last year, I thought.
Was he in championship
he did.
four?
Yeah, he finished third.
Oh, yeah, he was. My fault.
Yeah, because it went Blaney, Larson, Byron, and Bell who backed out.
Okay, I thought he was like one of the guys who got bumped out in the round of 8.
No.
But the point I want to make with what got said is, it takes a whole team to win the Daytona 500, and I think Catching Out got WilliamByron in a position where he wasn't that good, but really frugal. His old clutch cookie is what William needed, and now I think he's going to knock off 8 or 9 wins this year. So,
that sounds like a bold prediction right there.
Yeah, that is a very high optimistic view. I mean, when was the last time we even saw a driver in back-to-back seasons win, say, 6 races in two seasons in a row? Cause
it's been a while.
Because MTJ had 2 down years in between his had 1 down year in between his championship season, and then 2019 where he went and won 6-7 races.
Yep. Will, what are your thoughts on WilliamByron becoming like the guy?
No, I think Brett's right that Chase is always going to be the guy for Hendrick Motorsports in the eyes of the fans and of the team, just because he brings them in lots of money. But I think Williams is a solid driver that brings cars home. I think anybody that finished in the top 10 in points last season should be considered by their teams to be, or should have the expectation from their teams that they are going to be championship contenders. That doesn't mean they're going to win. That doesn't mean they're going to make the round of 8, but they should at least be there with a shot. And Williams has been there with a shot the past 2 years. And the past 2 years being 2022 and 2023 is what I'm referencing.
Yeah, and I mean, even just looking at the top 10 in points from last year, I think the only outliers there were really the 2 Fords of Buescher and Keselowski. I mean, I think they're really the only ones that would be a little bit of a surprise to see him back in that position next year or this year.
Well, I mean, if you look at it, other than Kyle Larson over the last season and a half, give or take, Byron has been like the most consistent Hendrick driver. I mean, Chase Elliott went winless last year. Granted, he had the injury and then the suspension for wrecking Hamlin at Charlotte. And then Bowman he started off 2023 with a string of top 10s, and then he had his injury. And when he came back, it was not the same Alex Bowman that we seen to start the season. So, I mean, looking at like stats and just consistency, like Byron was like the most consistent Hendrick driver.
Yeah, I mean, in 2022, Byron had 2 wins, but Larson also only managed 3 wins himself, so it's not like Larson was leap years ahead.
Yeah.
But that one season in 2021 is what's going to keep Larson ahead of Byron in a lot of people's eyes, because Byron hasn't had a season where he got 11 wins or 10 wins or whatever.
Yeah. What about you, Ben?
So, this is probably the most talented Hendrick Motorsports team since, Gordon, Johnson, Casey Kane, Kyle Busch.
I don't think those guys all overlapped at Hendrick at the same time.
No, Terry Labonte was there at one point, too. They were there simultaneously at one point.
Because Casey Kane didn't come into the team until late.
Oh, you mean overall? Like, as a whole?
The strongest combination
who was
of them?
Was it Terry Labonte that was with him and Kyle Busch?
Yeah, it was Casey Mears.
Or was it Earnhardt?
Casey Mears and Brian Vickers.
So who was it with? It was Gordon, Johnson, Kyle Busch. Who was the other one?
If you're thinking 2006 to 2007, that would have been Brian Vickers.
Brian Vickers was the other full-time driver that year.
Okay.
Because Dale Jr. came in 08.
Yeah, and he replaced Kyle Busch.
Was Vickers still there?
No, he had gone to
I think 08
Red Bull Racing.
Was 08 the year that they had Casey Mears then?
Yeah,
because they only had Casey Mears for one season.
Okay, so either one of those teams are comparable to what they have right now. I would feel that. I feel like Byron is probably the Kyle Busch of the team. I eventually think he's going to wander off and go to another team eventually, and probably win a championship somewhere else.
I have to respectfully disagree with that.
Yeah, because Rick Hendrick loves William Byron so much, like his own son, and he looks like Ricky.
Mr. Rumble, what is your 2 cents on this topic?
Rumble, you on mute, bud.
Yeah, I think he knows that.
Yeah, I know. I was working on it. So, do I have to talk Byron and Bowman, or can we just talk Hendricks?
Hendrick.
I mean, you can talk about Hendrick and stuff, but we're kind of focusing on Byron, becoming the Hendrick guy.
I don't think that's going to happen. And my only question about Hendricks Motorsports right now is, do you think that the golden boy, everybody's favorite guy, Chase Elliott, will even win a race this year?
Whoa!
I do think that Chase Elliott will have somewhat of a comeback year. He'll probably pop off 1 or 2 races and probably make the round of 8.
Feel like he should have never gone snowboarding. Fucked everything up.
I mean, I'd be more worried about Alex Bowman, though, because, that was Alex Bowman's second injury in 2 years, because he had the concussion at Dega.
Second injury in 6 months.
Well, he
got the concussion at Texas.
Oh, yeah, it was at Texas before the Dega race.
It's not a focal point for me, because Hendricks will always be doing just fine. They're no slouches. It's just really not a concern for me. If I was going to ask any question, like I already did, you think Chase will even win a race this year? That's where I'm at. That's what I got to say about that subject. Thanks for hearing me.
All right. Ryan, what do you got?
So, first off, I think the idea of William Byron being the other guy is, to me, a bit of a stupid debate, because I think he is... like Brett said, I think he's in that conversation where you could say he's potentially one of the top 2 in terms of raw talent, but at the very least, it definitely feels like, especially on the stats sheet, that Bowman is kind of the 4th guy, kind of trailing behind the other 3. But all 4 have contracts for the foreseeable future. I think Bowman's is the first one that will be up. So I think Byron's runs through the end of 2024, through the end of either 2025 or 2026. I don't know when Bowman's runs out, and then I know Elliott and Larson both signed contracts that last through the year 2027. So Bowman's on the shortest term deal, and he was the name that all the rumors said might get bumped if, say, a Kyle Busch was interested in going to that team. The name suggested that would get moved to open up the seat there was Bowman, not Byron.
All right. Well, I'll get to Ben in just a second, but I saw the wheels in Brett's head turning. So what do you got, Brett?
With what Ben was saying about Byron leaving, I don't think Byron's going to be the one that leaves. If anybody leaves, it's going to be Bowman. In the pecking order, Bowman's the bottom of it.
Yeah.
There's no question about that.
Yeah, and that's why I said I think the idea of saying Byron as the fourth-tier person is on the stupid side.
But going back
And what
to
a
that
good
point,
position to be in.
yeah, but going back to that point, who do they have in the wings to replace Bowman? They don't have anybody in motorsports to come up. Maybe Sam Mayer, but he's not ready.
Yeah, Mayer's not ready, and that's why I don't think it's necessarily that they are looking to replace Bowman as much as it is Bowman would be the first one moved if a free agent became available that they wanted.
You guys.
So I mean, you might be right. I mean, I can see Bowman or Byron being one of the ones that are left out dry, because both. I mean, let's be honest. Larson and Elliott, they are the golden boys
for their careers.
Yeah, they're the golden boys. They can't do no wrong. Fucking Kyle Larson and fucking Elliott can both go on a snowboard trip, break their legs, and come back next year and still have a job. So, I really do not want to see Kyle Busch come back to Hendrick. He's the reason why I don't like him anymore, is because he left Hendrick. He's a little crybaby bitch. Like, I do not like the guy. Like, you guys know, when you saw me at the race, I had to flip him up every time he went by. I do not like the guy. Do not.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think
Well, that's my stance.
I don't think him going back to Hendrick is a realistic possibility at this point. But when the rumors were swirling around when he didn't have a job 2 years ago, when he was out at, or when the rumor was around that he was out at Joe Gibbs, Hendrick was listed as a potential landing spot at that point. And
you want to know why he won't come back? Because he has to suck up a lot of pride.
Well, I mean, he had to suck up a lot of pride to go to RCR after RC whooped his ass.
Yep.
Hashtag hold my watch.
Yep.
Rick Hendrick and Kyle Busch didn't get along. That's why he left. It wasn't just he left. It was kind of a I'm leaving and I'm getting fired at the same time situation. They just didn't get along. Yep. And it worked out well for both of them. So
yeah, and that's where going back to Hendrick, I don't think would have to be swallowing a ton of pride, because he won 2 championships away from Hendrick if he did end up returning. Now, if he had like a couple of really bad seasons away from Hendrick and then came back, that would have been damaging to the pride.
And he's aged quite a bit too, so he's mellowed out a little.
Yeah, he's definitely like mellowed out and chilled out, especially since he got away from like Joe Gibbs and all that stuff. So
yeah, I mean he's gotten better.
Before we jump step on this topic, I have something to say about Case Elliott. And
oh boy.
Yep.
This is my opinion, okay? Case Elliott is my favorite driver, but the kid made a mistake, and it killed his season this year. What do you guys think? Do you think Hendrick Motorsports should put the kibosh on extracurricular activities? But I heard an interview with Jeff Gordon on Fox saying that they're fine with their drivers going to other race sporting events and competing and taking that chance of getting hurt. Yeah, fluke accidents are going to happen, but the point of the matter is these guys make money on their career in NASCAR and with so one more injury this year, and what do you guys think? Think it means that change their minds on the drivers being allowed to do their curricular activities, starting with Rumble.
Well, yeah, you gotta be able to still have a life. I was being a little sarcastic, JP, about the going snowboarding and hurting yourself. But you gotta have a life outside of whatever your job is, even if you're a stock car racer, $1 million stock car racer, living in the matches. You still gotta be able to live your life. I was just being sarcastic about that, JP. It just seemed like it's since that's happened. The golden boy, he's not so golden anymore, and that was just kind of my point. Hendrick Motorsports will be just fine. They will sort it out guaranteed. If it's not now, they will do it in short order. I have more questions. Ben there, he looked like he was eating pizza and wings. I want to know what kind of pizza and wings he was having because I'm pretty fucking hungry right now.
We know it was Papa John's. We saw the pizza box.
It was Papa John's.
Papa John.
Pepperoni pizza, and then there were honey chipotle wings. And
Nice.
a Mountain Dew.
Nice.
Yeah.
To answer your question, JP, no, I don't think that they'll change their policy on extracurricular activities because Denny Hamlin said it best in one of his episodes of Actions Detrimental last year, right after the Chase Elliott injury. You can go out during the off season and do a game of pickup basketball with your friends and pop your Achilles tendon. You know, they anything can happen outside of the race car. You know, like they could be driving to the damn airport and get in a car wreck and get hurt. I mean, look at that guy Chris Hacker last week.
Yup.
He got hit head on by a semi truck. And
100%.
They're more likely to get hurt driving to the track than driving on the track.
And
he got cleaned out just going.
And he's already said that when he's fully healed, he plans to get back in whatever ride that he is allowed to get in. You know, so like Rumble said, you got to live your life outside of the track. I know some of these guys like racing they live and breathe racing, but they also have a life outside of racing too. That they have hobbies and stuff like that they want to do. So I think the teams. Like Hendrick's already pretty good about it, but I think the other teams they need to be a little bit more lenient about what their drivers can and can't do. I know they have a brand. To protect and all that good stuff, but you can't wrap them in bubble wrap and tell them to stay home.
I just wanted to see where your guys' opinion was.
I mean,
Gonna be dumb, you gotta be tough.
Well, and my opinion is that I think that it would be hard for Hendrick Motorsports to take a harsh stance on, say, Elliott going snowboarding. Meanwhile, they're also helping Kyle Larson go and attempt the Indy 500, Coke 600 double, because I think an IndyCar race is as dangerous as snowboarding is, and it could very well end up putting him out, and or at the very least, it could potentially tire him out before one of the longest NASCAR races of the year.
It could kill him.
That's the Indy 500. It's not like he's got a ton of experience there. It could be fucking wickedly dangerous.
Exactly. It's one of those things where it'd be hard for them to put any kind of foot down and say Elliott can't go snowboarding when they're supporting a guy doing something like that.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Well, let's move into our next topic. This is green flags and black flags. And so basically what this entails is a green flag is something that you enjoyed from the racing weekend. It could be from any series. And a black flag is something that you did not like from any series. It doesn't have to necessarily dictate to the Daytona 500. Starting with Brett, what are your green flags and black flags?
Green flags are, well, with the Xfinity and truck races, there are a lot more going. Like, they're not 175-mile-an-hour pace laps like the Cup race was. They were moving fast. They were making moves that Cup guys weren't making all weekend.
What's your black flag?
Oh, the Cup race could have been more exciting, but with the packages they have, there's nothing they can do about it. But other than that, the wrecks and stuff like that, stuff that could have been avoided, like in the truck race where Tanner Gray went flipping, safety and that stuff could have been better. But other than that, I don't have many black flags.
Will, what about you?
I got a couple green flags. I like the Bubba scoring the third most points out of anybody at the Daytona 500. He's still fifth in points because Chase Elliott racked up them points from the duels and the stages. I enjoyed him finishing fifth. I guess it's kind of a 50% black flag. It would be them not letting them race back around to take the checkered, because that would have been the best shot Bubba would have had to win. Even factoring a green white checkered, that would be the best shot he had because he had a lot of momentum at the time. A black flag. NASCAR's scheduling all this rain around their races like they think that's what the fans want. I guess
stop
that
making
would be
the races look like parades. Maybe the rain will stay away.
I think that's the third time me and Ryan have had that call and response.
Yep.
Another. I love Raja. I've raced with him before on iRacing before. But wrecking the field to get, what was it, second? And then, but he, to his credit, ended up owning up to it after Big Brother Bubba, whenever they're in and talk to him. That was a black flag, for sure. I need another green flag to balance it out now. I guess Legacy getting 2 top 10s, both cars in the top 10, or well, 2 out of 3 cars, I guess. Both full-time cars, we'll say.
Yep.
Yeah. JP, what about you? What's your green flags and black flags?
My green flag had to do with Austin Cindric from the, 2 cars. That kid almost won his second Daytona 500 if it wasn't for being involved in that last wreck. What's that?
He would have still had a lot to do to get to that second Daytona 500 win, even if he hadn't gotten spun.
Yeah. But the Connie 1 team in the NASCARIscFinitySeries, AustinHill.
Yep.
Pretty dang good job. I think those are my 2 green flags. And my black flag, I'm sorry to have to say this, Will, but, Bubba Wallace, I just didn't see the aggression out of him that I want to see in a Daytona 500 champion.
What?
Oh, what? He finished top 5. Okay. I don't know what more you really needed to see out of him. He was waiting until the last lap, and the last lap didn't end up happening.
He won the 2022 Daytona 500.
That too.
Oh, I just have to give Will a hard time.
I see the look on Brett's face already. He's like, wait a minute, Bubba didn't win the 500.
I don't think he's heard me talk about that before.
Yeah.
We all have we talked about it last week. We were talking about Bubba. Bubba technically got shoved below the double yellow line by Austin Cindric in the 2022 Daytona 500, and NASCAR didn't call it as a penalty, so technically Bubba should have won that race.
Oh, is it like the
if we're going by the 2000,
yeah, he got forced below the double yellow line.
Talladega Fall race, where Tony Stewart finished second and Eric Almirola won.
Regan Smith.
Yeah,
Regan Smith, whatever.
Yeah.
Some driver with 1 win. Okay.
You got 2 wins.
Yeah, Regan Smith has 2.
Yeah, you got
I'll
one.
give him more credit.
Yeah, does Regan Smith have 2? I thought
Yeah,
he
you got
just
one
won
at Darlington,
at one
I
time.
think. Yeah, I think he got another one
Yeah.
at Darlington.
He won, and then he also won in the 78.
Yeah, it was Darlington in the 78, I believe.
Oh no, it's I think what's his name? Regan like pushed Tony Stewart below the line at that Talladega race, and
Yep.
they took the win away from him and gave it to Tony Stewart.
Yep.
Yeah.
So if we're going by that rule, then Bubba won the 2022 500.
Ben, what are your green flags and black flags?
All right. So my green flags are going to be Chase Elliott did pretty good. Hendrick Motorsports did really good. Bubba Wallace actually did good. And I'm actually really impressed by Bubba Wallace and how he handled his interview on the radio. He actually handled it really well instead of being super angry or anything. He actually handled it really well. I think he might have went to PR classes during the off season, maybe. I'm not sure. I think it might have, whatever he did, I think helped. I liked the interview. He also said his car was the cleanest it's ever been. My black flag, well, another green flag would be how they handled the rain. Black flag would probably be Brad K. That's also a green flag too because he took himself out. And I also agree with Will about the whole entire thing where they should have also just left it where they raced the last lap out. It could have been a whole entire different situation.
Yep. Rumble? Waiting on you, Rumble.
Yeah, you got me now.
Yep.
Short and sweet. Black flag, the rain. Green flag, NASCAR calling it ahead of time. NASCAR is notorious for fucking hanging their fans out and like just show up, be there at the track. Black flag, the weather. Green flag, NASCAR getting ahead of it. That's all I got to say about that. Good job.
Yep. Ryan.
So for my green flag, I'm gonna say the fact that they actually got all 4 series in within only 1 extra day added to the weekend. They didn't end up having to reshuffle or potentially even just flat out cancel, say, the ARCA race, which theoretically isn't as important. No, they didn't end up canceling anything like that, because I know I saw a couple of people in my chat throughout the weekend saying, like, oh, they should just cancel, especially while we were kind of waiting for information, because it was like, I had an hour and a half stream on Saturday waiting for news about the Xfinity race, if it was going to end up happening or not. But yeah, green flag, definitely that. Another green flag would be, Jordan Anderson in the Xfinity race nearly won the race and ultimately comes up home with a 3rd place finish. And I know my buddy Patrick and I, we were celebrating that both during as it was happening and then also on a call after the stream. So that was definitely a green flag. For a black flag, I was going to say the rain, but I'll think up something else because I know Will already took the rain as his black flag. So, honestly, I think the thing I probably disliked most about the weekend was just kind of the sloppiness in both the truck and Xfinity race, or not Xfinity, in the truck and ARCA races on Friday night. They were both on the sloppier side compared to your more traditional racing, like what we saw in the 500 where there were a couple of wrecks, but not to the point of getting silly.
Yep.
But I guess that's what I get for watching ARCA.
Yeah. So my green flags are pretty much what most of you guys said. NASCAR for how they handled the schedule and the rain, working around it and stuff like that. And Ryan, you actually took one of mine, Jordan Anderson. He's like my favorite underdog driver, and he come home 3rd, and his team car finished 2nd, so they got a 2nd and a 3rd place finish.
They got 3rd and 4th.
Xfinity race.
third and fourth. Sheldon Creed
that's
was
right.
second.
Yes, Sheldon Creed second. My bad.
Yep.
But the biggest green flag that I had for the whole weekend was how many fans actually showed back up on Monday for the 500. Because normally when a race gets postponed to like a Monday, the grandstands are probably a quarter or maybe halfway full. Those stands were packed.
Absolutely.
And my buddy Brandon, who's actually in our group chat, was there. And he said the energy, even for a Monday, was just absolutely electric. For
That's
it being,
awesome.
You know, with The Rock being there doing the command and the flyover and all that good stuff. Like he said, it was like incredible. My black flags. One of them goes to NASCAR for throwing the caution for a 2-car wreck at the Daytona 500 to end the race. Now, granted, I know why they did it, but they did not throw a caution flag for the massive pileup in turn 2 at the end of the XfinitySeries race when guys were knocking the fence down, and they let them race back. Now, another black flag would probably go to Sheldon Creed. Granted, he probably saw the wreck in his mirror and thought that they were going to throw the caution, but it looked like he throttled back. But they did not throw the yellow, and he lost himself the race.
Yep.
And the other black flag is it has to go to the Truck Series. That was one of the, like you said, Ryan, one of the sloppiest truck races I've ever seen. A record number of cautions with 12 that ended with Rajah Caruth barreling through the driver in front of him, and it ended with one guy pretty much crowd surfing on top of 5 different trucks to end the race.
Yeah, I mean, I even saw some people on Twitter calling for the trucks to not return to Daytona next year, which, if that tells you that the racing got out of hand.
Has this not been kind of a little bit of a, sorry, I don't want to walk on you again, but it has not the Truck Series recently been quite disrespectful between basically everybody? It's just a fucking free-for-all.
Yeah, I mean,
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Hocevar intentionally wrecked a couple of people in the Truck Series over the last couple of years, and I think even 1 or 2 of them he admitted to it being intentional.
Yep. I was sitting there watching the truck race Friday night, and I'm sitting there thinking, are the ARCA guys even going to get to run at this point? Because we were pushing like 10:30 by the time that truck race was over, and it was a shit show to say the least. But it's a good segue. We're actually going to briefly discuss the trucks and Xfinity races from Friday and Monday night. Starting with the Truck Series, we pretty much all know what happened. Nick Sanchez got his first career win in the Truck Series. He was pretty fast in 2023, but didn't really get to close out the deal. He came close at Texas until he got wrecked by Carson Hocevar, and Hocevar ended up picking up his first career win. We all have pretty much the same thoughts, but we're going to go through it real quick. Brett, what were your thoughts on the truck race Friday night?
It was a little bit more chaotic than usual, but other than that, I don't have any problems with it. I'm actually more going to switch focus from Sanchez, which for Sanchez getting his first win, I'm proud of him for doing it at Daytona. But going to the 71 of Rajah, for being not as experienced as like Corey Heim or Matt Crafton, he still finished third. He may have wrecked some people, but he still finished third.
Yeah, I agree with that. Bubba Wallace, I listened to Door Bumper Clear earlier today, and Bubba Wallace was the guest on there, and he said that Rajah has got a lot of learning to do with this being his first full-time season in the trucks for what they would probably consider a competitive team, because Spire took over Kyle Busch Motorsports. So those trucks are most likely going to be somewhat competitive this year. Will, what do you think?
Rajah was full-time last year as well. What
was he?
He was.
He was full-time.
Yeah, he ran the 20.
Yeah, and I don't know if that ride's competitive. I don't pay attention to the Truck Series or the Xfinity Series. I'm too lazy, but I think the truck race was very much a 12 a.m. iRacing Talladega lobby. Rex, half the race was run under caution. I don't know if that's the actual percentage that was run under caution, but it feels that way.
Yeah, it felt like it.
It was went great. Props again to Fox for putting the camera on Bubba as he walked up to Raja and then cutting away, making it seem like they were like having an argument or whatever when they weren't.
Yeah, that's totally what it looked like too.
Yeah, or Bubba
totally
looked like throw hands.
Yeah,
right. That's totally
the Reddit
what it
lit
looked
up.
like. Yeah.
But I didn't really watch much of the Xfinity race because I think I cut off like the last 10 laps or something when AustinHill made it back up through the field, and it was going to be all that for an AustinHill win.
Yep.
It was a good race, though. I enjoyed it.
Yep. Go ahead, JP.
Is it my turn now?
Yep.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
All right. I want to shift gears and kind of talk about the 71 team of Walter Caruth. Walter needs to learn patience, in my opinion. I know the dude finished third, but listening to all you guys, and Friday night, what was I doing? Friday night, I just kind of was minding my P's and Q's and kind of had one eye on the TruckRace and had to go do a league race, but from what I saw, it was a club, so, and by the time I was done, the club was over. I mean, it was like a blink of an eye. Fox would click a cut to a different TV show. I thought when I got done with my league race on NASCAR, I was going to watch some of the highlights and never did from Fox because they were so quick to cut off.
Well, that's what happens when races run late due to 12 caution flags.
Yeah. Going back to what you said real quick though, Raja does need to learn some patience, yes. But if you actually go back and watch the truck race and go back and listen to Door Bumper Clear with Bubba Wallace, Raja wasn't anywhere near the front until the very end. He was mid-pack, just sitting there logging laps. He was actually he was sitting there learning and being patient, and he was getting through the wrecks. That's why he ended up at the front there at the end.
Yes, he's a very, very sharp kid. He's 21. He just started doing iRacing in 2018. I'm looking at his Wikipedia page. He just started racing late models in 2020. So he's been doing this a whole 4 years, not even a whole handful of years. So he's definitely got a
versus some of these drivers who were racing at 4 years old.
Yeah, he's still very green.
Yeah,
I guess.
It's
as far as the Xfinity race goes,
I think
we're gonna get to the Xfinity race in a bit, JP.
Oh, I probably.
It's okay. And Will, you are correct. Raja really is a sharp kid. Freddie Kraft mentioned on Door Bumper Clear that any time that Raja is not in a car, he is up on the spotter stand learning and asking questions about what moves they were making and stuff like that. So he is doing everything that he can to absorb as much information as possible. But Ben, what were your thoughts on the truck race if you watched it?
I didn't watch it. I was working, unfortunately.
Okay. Rumble, did you catch it?
Yeah, I caught it. Truck racing is completely disrespectful now. Everyone's just driving around smack and crack. Truck racing is completely lost their ability to try and race clean around each other. They're all got a motivation to do whatever they're doing. Yeah. And truck racing, when I'm playing the video game there, NASCAR Heat 5, I love truck racing. But anyways, watching it from the last few truck races I watched, it's a complete show of disrespect by many drivers. Nobody gives a fuck.
I agree.
What about you, Ryan?
All right. So in terms of the Truck Series race, the biggest thing was just how jarring it was seeing all the different numbers, because really the only team / numbers that are the same as they have been over the course of the last several years are really the Thor Sport trucks with Matt Crafton and the numbers there. You've got the 88, the 98, but really almost every other, in terms of the front runners, you have the 77, the 7, the 71 all taking over the traditional Kyle Busch numbers. Then you've got the GMS, what had the 24 and 23 for the longest time. They're all of a sudden not there, and instead it's being replaced by teams like the 9 and the 45 of Nice Motorsports, and then like the 32 of Brett Holmes up in there in the middle. And it's just a bunch of kind of random numbers that are not associated with any former memories I have from the Truck Series.
All right, well, let's shift a little bit of focus over to Monday night after the Daytona 500 with the Xfinity race. As we all know, AustinHill is basically like Superman at Daytona. Can end up in the back and then end up right back at the front. This was his third Daytona season opener in a row that he has won. And Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, but every single one of them has come with a last lap wreck, whether it be a caution or not. But some of the other notable things that happened during the Xfinity race was Frankie Muniz made his XfinitySeries debut. Even though it didn't last very long, he got caught up in the big wreck on like lap 20, I think it was.
Yep.
Shane Van Gisbergen made his debut. He qualified 5th and ran up near the front somewhat, ran near the back, middle pack. He was actually involved in that big wreck. He was actually involved in a number of accidents and still brought home a 12th place finish. One that it got noted somewhat, but Natalie Decker had 7 laps and became the third female driver in NASCAR history to actually lead laps in the Xfinity Series behind Danica Patrick and I can't remember who else it was named. Brett, what were your main thoughts about the Xfinity race Monday night?
Can I point one thing out that I just noticed looking at some reports from the Xfinity Series?
Go ahead.
So when Fox Sports send out the notification about the end of the Xfinity race, they have it being Hill, Creed, Anderson. But then when they put out the official one after tech inspection, it's actually Hill, Creed, Retzloff, and Anderson 4th for whatever reason. Not sure as to why, but I definitely remember watching Anderson coming across the line 3rd.
Yeah, I was going to say the scoring pylon said that at the checkered flag.
But looking at the NASCAR app, they reflect the same thing. Hill, Creed, Retzloff, Jordan Anderson, Chandler Smith, the top 5. And is that just going to be a Mandela effect where I remember it one way and it never was?
I don't know. I'm going to have to go back and watch the replay on YouTube.
Yeah, me too.
So I'm looking at... Sorry for cutting you off. but I'm looking at the preliminaries of the race. The way that they finished, Parker Resloff was 1.163 behind Hill, and Jordan Anderson was 1.164 behind Hill. So
it came down to like 1,000th of a second.
So the pylon is also might be a little off due to timing, but it could be just that timing stuff like that. But my thing on the thing, Natalie Decker did well, finished 18th after leading 7 laps. But the other one that I like to note, and I'm not big on like following like Junior Motorsports or Joe Gibbs. I like following more of the smaller teams. Like the 44 of Alpha Prime's Brendan Poole, he finished 19th. He finished ahead of Sammy Smith, Daniel Dye, and stuff like that, which Daniel Dye did pretty well as well, pretty good as well, because I think he started 26th, if I'm not mistaken.
And he was almost upside. He was almost upside down at one point too.
Yeah, so him being a Cup Series regular.
Scoring, are you?
Yeah, I was like, I'm on NASCAR's website. I've been reading that the whole time while everybody else is talking. But
I just said, sorry, JP.
He was the last finishing car in the race.
You're about to loud out there.
Oh wow.
The only thing that bothered me was Haley Deegan not getting laps like she should have, but she also got caught up in that early wreck.
Yeah, that was a weird wreck too, like a really weird wreck. Will, what about you?
I guess I kind of got ahead of you in that I talked about Xfinity whenever I was talking about the truck.
That's all right.
I pretty much cut it off whenever it became clear we were going to go through that great race just for an AustinHill win. So, oh well, I guess. I was at work, but so watching it.
JP, you still awake?
Yeah.
A little.
Yeah. No problem to sleep for me tonight. But AustinHill, man, am I the only one here that's going to give him praise? I think he earned it. I mean, yes, the classic came out. Yes, he didn't work so hard, but after he went through last year, not making the championship for because of a dumb move from his old teammate in that 18 car now. Now, this is a bold prediction, but AustinHill will be your champion in the NASCAR XfinitySeries this season.
All right.
I think you're probably one of the few people on AustinHill's side of that debate, because I think most people think, I know I personally don't think Creed necessarily did anything outrageously wrong with the move at Martinsville.
Yep. Ben, what about you?
I only caught Frank Muniz getting wrecked out. That's about it. Working unfortunately.
Gotcha. Rumble, did you? Okay. Rumble, did you catch any of the race Monday night?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, so I didn't watch it. What's the question?
Well, just what were your overall thoughts on that race?
I thought it was a good race. It was what it was. It's Daytona. It was what it was. No complaints. But sorry, I don't have much to elaborate on that, but I didn't find anything really wrong this weekend. Normally, I'd be rumbling about some, but this weekend really did do it. I was underwhelmed because we knew we were going to get rained out. We were all looking at our apps Wednesday or Tuesday, and we knew that shit was going to get rained out, and it was going to be. I'm just glad it was all got done, right? So I sat and watched it all. I found nothing there spectacular enough to brag about or bitch about. It was just racing. So where are we off to next? We're going to Atlanta next weekend.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
we'll get with Ryan on his thoughts, and then we'll jump into that.
All right, I appreciate that.
Yep.
All right, so yeah, the NASCAR Xfinity Series race. It was definitely a different style of race. It was much more in the same style as the 500, where it was a lot on the cleaner side. You had SVG getting in the middle of a lot of the mess that did happen, both in the ARCA and in the Xfinity race. But, yeah, it was a relatively clean race, and there are 3 things you can count on. You can count on rain at NASCAR races. You can count on AustinHill winning, and you can count on Chase Elliott probably winning Most Popular Driver of the Year again. So... there are about 3 things you can count on, and I think all 3 of those are pretty much guarantees.
Yep. All right, well, we're going to transition into our final segment. We're going to Atlanta this weekend, boys, and I will actually physically be at Atlanta with my son. I bought tickets a couple days ago. But Atlanta, as we all know, 3 years ago was reconfigured, and they brought a different package to create more of a super speedway type race at 1.5 miles. I went to both races last year, and I have to say that the night race was a lot better than the spring race. However, I've heard multiple drivers, especially today listening to the podcast, saying that the asphalt that they laid down is aging very rapidly, and handling is becoming more and more and more of an issue. I saw it last year during the night race when Alex Bowman busted his ass coming off of turn 4 all by himself and took Denny Hamlin with him. What can we expect as far as this weekend goes? Brett?
I feel like it's not going to be as much of a super speedway as they call it this year, because it's been 3 years since they repaved it. More and more people drive on, more and more races on it. The more wear and tear it comes, the more they get spread out.
All right, Will?
Yeah, I don't know how much the weather has aged the track in the 6 months since the last race. We'll find out whenever they take the track for qualifying, because they don't have practice.
They only have one. They only have one practice session after qualifying, and that is to practice their pit road speed.
And it's only about a 10-minute session as well.
Yeah, so we'll find out if BJ McLeod goes out and spins by himself, then we'll know something's changed with the track, or I don't know if he's racing. Or if Bubba Wallace or Alex Bowman spins out by themselves during the race, we'll find out.
JP, what do you think we'll see?
Okay. Bold prediction. First time winner. Second race of the year. That 71 car will win the race.
Zane Smith.
Yep.
Are you thinking of Carson Hocevar in the 77?
Nope. 71.
Oh, Hocevar or Nemechek?
That's Zane Smith.
Zane Smith.
Zane Smith.
Who the hell is Zane Smith?
TruckSeries champion. He drove the 38 for Front Row Motorsports for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Debbie stole him from Ford.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's your dark horse win, or is that your bold prediction, or is that who you think is going to win?
That is my dark horse pick.
Okay.
All right. Ben, what do you think we're going to see this weekend?
I think the verdict's still out in Atlanta. We'll see how it goes, like Will said.
Well, bye, Rumble.
Well, looks like we lost Rumble. But Ryan, what do you think?
I definitely think that that you're gonna see I think even though it is a super speedway style of race, I still think that the kind of classic front runners will bubble their way to the front. I mean, looking at some of the winners of the Atlanta Super Speedway races, I mean, you've got Joey Logano, you've got WilliamByron, you got Chase Elliott. I mean, you have a lot of your traditional favorites to win regular races, as compared to, say, the Xfinity, or not the Xfinity, but the Daytona races, where it's pretty regularly that you'll have drivers who aren't normally in contention. I think the only underdog that I can think of really performing and coming close to victory at any of the Atlanta Super Speedway races is the Corey LaJoie one that Chase Elliott got away from him. Because I can't really think of any other kind of Super Speedway aces really being all that close to any of the Atlanta Super Speedway wins.
Okay. All right, so last thing that we're going to do is we started this after last week's episode. It's called our Race Picks. And what that entails is each person picks one driver for the race, and whoever that driver who finishes the highest, that person gets 10 points. Then it goes down from there. So last week, and if your driver that you pick wins the race, you get 1 bonus point. And the rules are you have unlimited picks on drivers, but you cannot pick the same driver that somebody else picked for that weekend. So last week, Amy picked Tyler Reddick. I picked Kyle Busch. Ryan picked Denny Hamlin. My buddy Brandon, who is in our group chat, he may pop in from time to time on the podcast, he picked Brad Keselowski. Rumble picked Joey Logano. My wife, who is in our group chat, picked Ross Chastain. And Ben chose Chase Elliott. I won last week with Kyle Busch in his 12th place finish.
Wow, none of us got a guy inside the top 12 or top 11.
Yeah. So I already have some picks here from people who are not in the podcast. I picked Joey Logano for Atlanta. Ashley, my wife, picked Tyler Reddick. Jamie picked Brad Keselowski. And my buddy Brandon picked Ross Chastain. Now, before we go into our picks, Will and Brett, would you like to be involved in this?
Yeah, sure.
I'll be good with that.
Okay. So we will start with Ben. Who are you picking for Atlanta?
I'm going with Chase.
Chase Elliott 2 weeks in a row. All right, Ryan, who is your pick?
Elliott, I wonder.
Ryan, who is your pick?
Despite what some people might guess my pick might be, I'm actually going to go ahead and I'm going to take Ryan Blaney. I think if the Penske's are in the mix, I think Blaney, with his newfound kind of championship level of experience and confidence, I think that will help him out late in these Super Speedway pack-style races.
All right. I will get Rumble's pick here in a little while. JP, are you sticking with Zane Smith, or are you picking somebody else?
Oh.
For your actual pick.
For my actual pick, I'm going with Mr. Kyle Larson.
All right.
That's a bold call.
Yep. Will, who are you picking?
Bubba.
I knew I was coming.
Yeah, I could have told you that one from a mile away. Or a mile and a half away, depending on how you want to go about it.
Will, I'm going to pick Bubba next week just to piss you off. Brett, who do you pick for Atlanta?
I'm going to go with Legacy Motor Club's number 42. I know Eric Jones is his teammate, but with the way the style of racing is, this fits John Hunter's driving style.
Okay. All right. A lot of good picks.
Am I allowed to reserve a pick for like 6 weeks from now? Because I already know I'm gonna want to try and get Eric Jones for the Darlington weekends.
Oh yeah.
Because he's gonna be good
guys.
there.
Well, all right, guys. That concludes our show. As always, a special shout out to our sponsors: Dubby Energy, Fanatics, Duke Cannon, Bulletproof Coffee. And again, thank you, Will, for coming in tonight. Brett, we lost him, but thank you again for coming in as well. I know you'll hear this later when it gets posted. And let's look forward to a great weekend at Atlanta, and we will see you guys next Wednesday. Deuces.
Absolutely.